Hi there, welcome to today's video, which will be my very first creative process video of the year, which is something I want to do a lot more of in 2020. But for today, I'm going to be working on a sculpture of Natasha Lyonne, who is a phenomenal actor. I really love her work, and I've wanted to make a model of her for some time now, so yeah, no time like the present. I've really enjoyed in particular her Russian doll series that was on Netflix last year, or it's still on there. It's such an incredible series. I'd really recommend that you go and check it out if you haven't done already, and I believe they're bringing out another season at some point too, which I'm really looking forward to. So yeah, I just wanted to pay tribute in the form of a sculpture, and I'll also be making a polymer poster or a fan art poster of Russian doll as well. So yeah, let's go and see how I get on. So to start, I'm just cleaning down my clay board with a tiny piece of sacrificial clay here. It's always worth doing because there's always tiny bits of fibres or tiny flecks of dirt kicking around, so it's always worth just spending a minute or two just doing this. And I'm going to start off by making the heads. And for some reason, I don't know what's happened with Fimo doll art clay recently, but it's really quite difficult to use. It's not blending terribly well, and I'm not sure why, so hopefully it's just a slight blip over at Fimo, and it will be corrected soon. But yeah, it's always a little disappointing when your product doesn't live up to expectations. And just make her mouth. It can take me ages working on a face, and particularly when I want to get a likeness. So I spent a good hour or so, probably longer actually, in making the face, so I'll just give you a tiny glimpse of the process here. And moving on to the base, I'm just using a very basic neutral colour. This is often a good way to use up any spare clay that you've got kicking around. So I've created quite a dark kind of neutral colour here, which will work quite well, I think. And give it a good old branding. And moving on to making her some boots. I've been asked why I sometimes use rubber gloves when working with clay, and to be honest, there's no real rhyme or reason involved. I tend to use them mainly when I'm working with a lot of dark clay, and particularly black, because I find the pigment really clings to your hands. So if it's just a case of having to mix clay and there's no sort of real detail involved in the moment, I'll often use some gloves just to save my hands really. And I think last year I was using them a bit more often because I've got a kind of health disorder where I react to a lot of food, and I was trying to troubleshoot whether or not I was reacting to art materials as well, and I don't think I was. Yeah, I'm just back to using my hands really. I like to be able to kind of feel the clay if I'm honest, so it's I only really use rubber gloves if I feel that I really have to, or if there's a lot of pigments involved in mixing clay. Because I find also that when you've got a lot of black pigments on your hands, it's really difficult to lift off, even if you wash your hands a few times. And when you're then moving on to lighter shades of clay, you obviously can transfer the pigment over, so it's really frustrating. So yeah, I'll definitely keep some rubber gloves in stock just for when I feel that I need to use them. And I'll just give Nadia some eye makeup here, as she's got a real smoky eye look going on for her Nadia character. And when I'm working on a character that needs a likeness, I find it really helpful to do a hair test before I'll add the head to the body really, just to ensure that the model really looks like who they're intended to be really, because if they don't, it's a case of having to start over really. And moving on to the body, and I'm going to be making Nadia's iconic red shirts. I don't want to discuss too much about the show really, in case you've not seen it, because I always find that the less I know about a show when I watch it, the more enjoyable it is. So yeah, it's frustrating because I want to tell you all about it, but yeah, I'm going to rein it in for today so you can go off and see it yourself really. So just attach the body to her trousers. What I will say though is that her character is really brilliant. It's so refreshing to see a character and a main character in the show that doesn't fall foul to any sort of female stereotypes really. She's a very, very strong character and I really love that about the show. So yeah, I just wish there were more characters like that out there really. And here's a little shot of my Osmo camera, or Ian's Osmo camera here. I haven't used it extensively for this video really, as I'm still getting to know the piece of equipment really. And I'd like to start filming overhead footage with the camera as soon as I'm able to figure it out really. So yeah, stay tuned for some experiments as we go on, but I'm pretty pleased with it so far, I have to say. And moving on to her coat. And I think I'm going to place her hands in her pockets, really because her character is so supremely confident that she doesn't have to rely on any sort of classic tropes about being a woman and perhaps carrying herself in a certain way. She's just a brilliant character, and I really want that to kind of shine through in my model too. So I'll just add some pockets here. And I'll just add some buttons to her coat here. And now it's time to make her iconic flame red hair. You'll have to be prepared for a lot of hair envy when you watch this show because, oh god, her hair is just so beautiful. So yeah, be prepared for that. And because it's curly, this is really difficult to achieve with polymer clay, so I'm just going to try a few different experiments really, just to see kind of what works. I find that when you try and work on individual curls, it just creates like a huge mess really, so it's just a case of trying to clump strands together really, just to see how they work. I used to have hair like Nadia's years ago, and I mean years ago, and I really loved it, but it was, boy, hard to look after really. Red hair is so difficult to maintain because you have to dye your hair sort of fairly regularly to have a really vibrant colour, or certainly I did anyway, and I'm sure hair dyes have come on since then, but yeah, I really enjoyed having it. And she's got a mega fringe going on as well, so I need to ensure that I capture that well. Considering I haven't really worked on many models, certainly for the last year, I'm pretty happy with the likeness that I've been able to achieve here, because it was a real worry, if I'm honest, because it's something that I'm certainly a bit out of practice with. So it's nice to feel like I've had a good start to the year. So there she is, all done, and yeah, I'm really happy with this one. And as promised, here's my polymer poster, or my fan arts poster for Russian Doll, and I'm really pleased with how this has come out, and I feel really confident to tackle another of my favourite TV shows, and I suspect it might be next week. Hope you enjoyed that, And if you've any suggestions for any TV shows or films that you think I should check out, maybe to create a sculpture or a polymer poster with, by all means leave those in comments, and I'll be back soon with another creative process video. So see you then, bye bye.